I've talked to some of you already and kind of shared just a draft overview of different types of events that we're talking about. But regardless of whatever is built, we do plan on this being a place where we have events and we have activations. There's some programs that we already have that
it'd be really neat if we actually use the space, the footprint of the church, and there was another rendering that had like a back, just open.
Yeah, like a framework.
The framework,
yeah.
And then create like this sweeping cover over the top, like kind of, like almost like a pavilion. And then we're actually inside of the church, but we're still outside because it's all open.
Yeah.
And then create even pews, like made out of, something that can be durable for the outdoors.
Like concrete.
Yeah, concrete or metal, or yeah. And then, but you're actually in the space.
Yeah.
So create like a, sacred space.
Yeah.
Out of the actual footprint of the church.
And then do you envision that that could be like a multi-purpose?
Yes.
So maybe there's some fixed elements, but then the rest of it, like you said, is an open space
Yes.
and used for lots of different things.
Exactly.
And
shaded, but still open. And then I was saying, like, when you look up, you can have artwork on the awning, like, painted or however.
Yeah.
Quotes from African American leaders. And so you can, people can wander through and read and just wander through the space. But then you can also open into the space and multicultural drive. Yeah.
I like the idea of having fixed keys, so you can use it in that way with them.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you enter the space, it's obvious, right? Because you're in a space that resembles a gathering space that resembles a church.
Stay within the footprint, but say larger events, can we spill over, or do you see that as an interactive space? What do you think about that?
Well, that's kind of why we were coming out here to see like the difference in height and all of that.
Good idea.
And then
Yeah, we can walk over to the bridge and get a better sense. Because we have to do switchbacks to get from AME accessibility to the street. Because we are from down here all the way up here. So it's a lot of yes, in one of the options that yes ma'am, the one that retains the entirety of the foundation. So this area is really just wiped out. So the only usable space is the ramp would come all the way through somewhere between it's really where these is a checkerboard looking foundation right through here, and it would connect over there to that stair is where what this would be.
Now, was that put in the corner?
Yes. And that would allow this space to be usable.
Well, I think on that one, the foundations don't be removed, so the original footprint is still retained. Actually, interpreting what was
With one of the C options, yeah.
that,
With this
the
one.
one with the bars, this one, with the cantilever. In order for us to get a structural wall going down there, we actually have to put chassis behind inside of that interior, which ends up affecting more of the original foundations. That's one of the challenges that we're trying to work through, at least on the design side of things, is here's some options that show a footprint, but I think the real big question is how much of the original foundation is critical to try to preserve, because some of these options remove more than others, even if the whole footprint is perfect. So I think that's one of the big questions that we're trying to work through too on the design standpoint, is just really the feasibility and the constructability of interpreting this in different scenarios.
So kind of, we touched on it a little bit up there, but one of the things that was important for us in doing this project, it started off as a flood control. The core of it is flood control, but we wanted it to be more than just that. We wanted to make this an amenity that the community could enjoy. It's about the community, it's for the community, and we really wanted to make it more interactive, both at the water level. You know, a lot of times back when it was just a small concrete channel, a lot of people, it was overseen. And we really wanted to, bring this love of our waterways, and it's so important to the city. You can see the ducks better when you're walking there. We see a lot of ducks, a lot of egrets, remnants of little crawfish all along the trail. So it's really nice to see that we're bringing some of that wildlife back. And once we complete all of the phases here in 2 to 3 years or so, we're really going to see a lot more as they come up from the lower river. So that's another exciting thing to look forward to. And we also wanted, thanks to Carrie Brown, she's got a lot of great artwork from local artists, and this is what you see. It's a little hard to see from the back side of this. It was just a plain old maintenance shop with a flood control tunnel that runs underneath, and we turned it into an art piece. So great job, Carrie. And you see another mural here. But we also, again, wanting to interact with the water.
Like design-wise, that could be incorporated into the physical space as well. But in terms of like programming,
there is an interpretive panel that's located.
Yes. Yeah. There's an interpretive panel that we'll have. We don't see any right now, but if we walk further, we'll see our existing panel. So we'll have one of those, and then that becomes part of our self-guided walking tour as well. And then, as I said, we have our website for additional information too. So those are again other ways to communicate the information.
One of the things I was wondering about, Tracy had mentioned about telling a broader history when you do your artwork and trying to include a little bit more of the framework of our leaders, the shakers of our city that help to contribute to what San Antonio is, especially in the African American community, because we don't have it. And so here's a golden opportunity for us to really paint this picture of all of us coming together, but telling our story here in San Antonio, that there were contributions from the African American community to make this city what it is. And so if there's any way that can be, I love that mural, and it sort of carries what she was talking about. And so as that mural goes further, then we can have some African American leaders and shakers where we can tell the whole story of San Antonio.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the murals that we're working on right now, we are starting to incorporate that story. We just selected the artist, so we're still in the design process. But specifically at this spot, yeah, I completely agree. This is the opportunity to tell that story and also tell the contemporary voice as well. So it's not just the history, but what it is today and what it is going to be going forward.
Tracy mentioned that you did a pavilion cover. So one of the things that could be incorporated is an artist rendering of the same glass that is there, that was here, and now is where.
Do you have information about what the stained glass looks like in design?
So they moved it. So it's there.
Right.
So it was here, and then it moved to the
Yeah, you can take those pictures and look at that.
like
I
for
just wanted
inspiration.
to mention too, a lot of the stakeholders in the area, such as the Texas Public Radio, the Alameda Theater Conservancy, they're very much in favor of naming that area after the AME church or some kind of commemoration, whether it is a plaza or whether it is preserved. They really want it to be named in honor of that community. So I wanted to mention that because they are very supportive too, and they're very mindful of all the cultures that supported it and created it.
The second, this is phase 2 of the soap factory. So what we saw earlier was phase 1, and that's originally where we were. We always thought we were here at phase 2. So then historically, what that does is position the church as being possibly the oldest black church in San Antonio.
Wow. And so, is this a collaboration with the city? I get more information, like, is this a collaboration with the city? Like, did they reach out to you all about this once they discovered it? How did this get underway?
They did, I guess, because of COVID, there were attempts to get in contact with us, and no one really answered the phone. But yes, there were attempts to get in contact with us.
Okay.
We didn't really come aboard until the newspaper and the museum contacted us and said, "Are you guys aware of what's going on?" And we had followed the articles in the newspaper, but it was the reporter with the newspaper that really showed an interest and went on our Facebook, listened to our services and commented, and he really had the reporter really made several contributions for us to connect with the riverfront authority.
Has everyone been pretty positive about the fact that this has such a meaningful impact on African American history and a willingness to preserve it?
Yeah. You're welcome.
And has there been a willingness across the board to preserve it for that?
Pretty much so. What was shared with Monica, what she just shared about the theater and pinners and so forth, that was very positive. Because we hadn't heard that part of it, of the story, so that was great.
So we're kind of juggling a lot of goals. We want to have both projects. We want to tell the history of the AME Church. We want to celebrate it. But we also want to make sure this is somewhere where people can come and bring as much exposure to the history as possible. So that's what we're working right now. Is there a medium that we can, find somehow? And like I said, well, Carrie is from day one, even before we found it, and now even more so, wanting to work with people to really tell the story as best as we can, both history and the current, how has it transitioned over the years. But this is a culture part, this is about all cultures of San Antonio and how they contributed to the 300-year history. So great.
Is there a way that you have in your design or your plan where the tourists that come into San Antonio, we can connect them, trying to move a lot of that population that comes every year to San Antonio, where they can be a part and they can feel comfortable, and I know you're going to work on the security, because I know this area can get a little rough, but the key thing is trying to catch those tourists and broaden so we can tell the whole story of San Antonio.
Yes. And we've actually had, I can't remember his name now. He's one of the local tour guides. Talking about, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Bruce.
So he does tours for tourists and shows them landmarks around the city. And we've recently brought him, given him a tour and talk to him about the history. So he helps us kind of redirect some of that traffic in his tours. And that's one of the things we're trying to expand, that reaching out to some of these tour companies to here's a feature. Right now it's a little tricky with all the construction, but just in the open park, we have seen some of that traffic get directed here.
And also through the hotels as well.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Concierge and stuff. And we also have wayfinding and maps that direct people to certain spots. We have a mobile app as well, even on our website, where you can take a virtual tour. And so if somebody is in Ohio and they want to see the AME church and learn about it, they can go on the mobile app or the website, and there's extensive research done on it, pictures and things like that, and they can see how it fits in to the rest of the park and the rest of the culture too. So there's a lot of ways that we're directing people in that area.
One other thing though is St. Philip's, which Tracy represents, is one of our only HBCUs that we have in San Antonio. And so as we're telling that story, is there a way that we can include aspects like St. Philip's and other entities that exist within San Antonio, so we can give that whole broad flavor? Because I believe we're the only HBCU here in San Antonio, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be great. We do have school districts that reach out to us. We had Henry Ford Academy that was once in that building, the Alameda, and they did a little project on San Pedro Creek. UTSA has reached out to us to kind of do some kind of collaboration, and then there's the KIPP Academy way down by the highway that way that we want to collaborate with on to get children interested in engineering and the culture and things like that. So we are completely open to that. We would love to do something with St.
And I think he's saying really it's just like capturing all of the history. So like Pullman Porters, just all of that African American history can be on display in this area, so that someone can come here to this spot and get the full scope of how African Americans contributed to San Antonio.
Especially with it being a culture park.
Try to educate myself, and so I was rounded about with the downtown corridor, and so as a former person that lived in the hotel, this would be of interest to myself and my family as we were coming into San Antonio convention.
Yes, and thank you. That's a lot of the reason why we do it. Flood control component aside, the vision to make it much more was, for exactly those reasons. Sometimes we'll be out here just checking up on the site, and we'll be walking, and we've had people come up to us and say thank you, and we really enjoyed it. And that's our goal ultimately. Turning a flood control project into something that everyone can enjoy, tourists, the community, and learn about San Antonio all at once if you can. So I know I love this project. We're all excited about it. So we're just excited about expanding further and further and opening more segments of the park and being able to tell more of that history. We really appreciate you all taking the time to come out and get a visual of the site, get a feel for it, and giving us your input. I think for us it's important to know kind of the vision that you have. What do you expect from the space? What would you like to see from the space? And that helps us figure out how to accomplish that. So thank you for your input and for meeting with us today. It's kind of the water quality. We still have a ways to go. It's a longer